listening to the Uprise Astrology Podcast, a podcast that inspires the present-day visionary to rise to their best life. My name is Aylin Sky, and I'm an astrologer and numerologist. I'm best known for cutting right through the noise and bringing the most important messages to you. Welcome, friends, to Uprise Astrology Podcast. Today we are live because we are going to be taking a look at the upcoming astrology for all of my Pisces rising friends. Now, sometimes I know that for some of you who are already into astrology, practice astrology, there's different types of astrology branches that we all kind of, believe in or are learning. Your sun sign might be something that speaks to you as well. But in my kind of studies up until to this point, if you're listening to your rising sign, it is going to give you the most accurate picture of where the transits are happening in your chart, how they're transiting through your chart. So listen to your rising sign first and foremost. That is going to give you a better picture of what is happening. But if you also are very connected to your sun sign, you're more than welcome to listen and combine any of these readings and listen to your sun sign. So I want to talk about the very first transit for all of my Pisces rising friends. This is going to be a very interesting month. It is all over the place. There's a lot that is happening this month that is sort of just kind of on the line of like strange and weird. And at the same time, I think that there's going to be a lot more info that is coming up to the surface that is making all of us personally just consider more choices and draw the line with certain things. So for you, Pisces, from the 1st through the 3rd, which is happening right now as we're speaking, there is a Mercury opposition to Neptune that is unfolding for you. And this is going to be happening between your 7th and your 1st house. Mercury has been now in your 7th house, retrograding back there. And it is in an opposition to Neptune in the 1st house. This is the kind of energy where we're trying to get some more clarity, but perhaps we're still kind of seeking that clarity. There's maybe a level of dishonesty at some level that is still coming up to the surface for you guys. Mercury is in the 7th house. This is a bond to somebody else's kind of agreements or any kind of, especially if you're dealing with some kind of agreements that require paperwork, you could be running into some kind of an issue where you need clarification. This is going to be on your mind. Could be on your mind if there's any kind of communication that is coming through right now. It might not be so clear. Just keep that in mind because more to the story, Mercury is going to be direct now your house. That means that there is a lot more clarification that you need to seek at this time. You need to sort of step more into, hey, why is this happening? You've been weighing out the pros and cons maybe here, but perhaps you have to reconsider something. You have to just take a look at what it is that you can truly kind of accept or open up to, or that you want to attract. And in that communication, when you open up between you and somebody else, then you can kind of get more into the nitty gritty, like, okay, this is something that I like, this is something I don't like. Especially if I mentioned this before, if there's any kind of paperwork with, this is going to be a time where your commitment is going to for you to really pay attention to what you're committing to. This is super important during this time, but Mercury comes back online here. So your awareness comes back online. Communication is going to come in when it comes to, other people, any kind of agreements, any kind of negotiation that needs to happen. Communication can come in fast and you can actually be a little bit more on point now with what it is that you're trying to, support yourself with. So Mercury is back online from the 6th through the 7th. Mercury trines Pluto. For you guys, Pluto has been transiting your 11th house. So this is going to happen, this trine between the 7th house, the house of bonds to other people, negotiation time, the time when you are trying to maybe build a new negotiation between you and somebody else. Could be a partner, could be a business partner. Any kind of business dealings, especially here, will be a good time because Pluto is in your 11th house. Pluto in the 11th house has been really showing you what and where in life you belong, especially when it comes to groups, especially when it comes to people that you are, a part of, or people that think like you. There's been a lot of change and a lot of sort of undoing so that you can do again in the 11th house. So during this time, what's happening for you guys is that you're more willing to kind of confront any kind of issues between you and maybe even other groups that you're a part of, or you're willing to dive in deeper to kind of create a deeper connection or even a deeper conversation between the people that are closest to you, but also the people that are at a larger scale a part of your life. So any kind of associations that you have to groups, any kind of, organizations, nonprofits. The 11th house can talk about larger, groups. This can also be friends. Okay. This could be friends that you're part of, or friend groups that you're part of. And so there is sort of a further validation that you're going to get between these two houses during the first week of October, where whatever you have been weighing out, there is a sense of rising above that could, or just a sense of willingness to, just speak up and speak your mind and say what is on your mind, but in a way where it leaves a really good impact because it's a trine. It's a very good communication here between the two houses. Now, this gets backed up the day later with Pluto moving direct in your 11th house. So two planets this week, moving direct. There is going to be a lot of energy that is going to start to surface here during the first week and beyond, where I think for you guys, Pluto going direct in the 11th house is going to evolve the story of where you feel like you belong in life, where your life actually, really belongs now. And what's next is starting to evolve over the next several weeks, especially. Pluto is going to continue to move out anything that needs to kind of be moved out of the way so that you can regenerate the sense of belonging here from within. Okay. Because it's 11th house. The 11th house, oftentimes, no matter how many times we talk about groups and like minded people and friends and sort of, the that you are a part of when it comes to other people and your connections to other people, Pluto here is going to regenerate this, and it's going to bring sort of a sense of belonging as a result of it, because the 11th house can definitely speak to a sense of belonging here. So the first week, no big deal, right? All these amazing things that are happening here. The second week, but interesting. I am definitely going to be watching this week very closely, because there's so many things that are happening in the second week that, as far as the transits go, that are very interesting that they're happening at the same time. So let's dive into it, right? There is going to be all along this Mars Neptune square that is going to be unfolding between your first house and your fourth house. The first house is you. It is your persona. It is your character. It is your sense of vitality. And it also can very often be some kind of action plan or a strategy that you personally have for your life. And so who you are as a result of it then starts to change because you have this action plan. The first house can oftentimes speak to that. Now, Mars is going to be in your fourth house. This is a very interesting time for you guys, because Mars in the fourth house is going to be, Mars in Gemini is going to stay here until March of 2023. And Mars is actually getting ready this month to slow down and to retrograde. So what's the fourth house for you guys? The fourth house is generally a time when we're diving into what we feel really most comfortable with, but it's directly linked to the past and our upbringing and how we're experiencing life as a result of it. Oftentimes we think of the fourth house as a time of nurture, a time of comfort, a time of home. Often this can also speak to digestion, you guys. I know that this is kind of weird for me to say. Whenever I have transits going through the fourth house, it's like whatever I'm feeding myself with, comfort foods can definitely come up. Now, Mars here in Gemini in the fourth house is going to be sort of a time where you could kind of feel a little bit like the soldier in the kitchen. Okay. Mars in the fourth house can sometimes bring up this time when we have to figure out a lot about our ambition, but our ambition has to sort of take into consideration what we feel comfortable of taking action towards and what we don't. But also, then there's other people that could get involved because the fourth house can oftentimes speak to family members. So here, that Mars Neptune square, it's a strange feeling in the air. Okay. It could be a strange feeling in the air in the sense that you might actually kind of revisit some situations with family members or revisit some things from the past that you are now going to start to, change your mind about this. But this particular week, be cautious around people who are presenting themselves to you in a way where they know it all, or they have all of the answers, or they kind of sort of in a way there's something weird about them. You want to pay attention to that. This could bring up even family where, all of a sudden there's sort of the sense that comes up where you get this gut intuition that someone's intention might change and it ends up changing and it's a messy situation. So this week, pay attention to these two houses. The other thing I do want to say here, because it's Neptune, it involves water, and Mars can oftentimes involve any kind of, vehicle, anything that we're driving, during this time, pay attention to just being cautious in general with everything that you are operating. Okay. Especially in your home. Now, another thing that I think with this Mars Neptune square that can come up is any kind of secrecy during this time you weren't aware of. So pay attention to family members, pay attention to people that are closest to you or part of the family where this kind of a thing can come up. And it kind of has a little bit of this weird note, sort of, wow, this was a secret. I had no idea. These are the types of things that I'm seeing here. With 23, because Mars and Neptune are going to be in that square at 23 exact, this can be an impatience. This can be sort of a quick sort of energy here because it's a mental driven energy. And Mars is in a sign, in an mutable air sign in Gemini. A lot of thoughts, a lot of communication, a lot of words. So pay attention to words as well. All right, moving on. That was a lot for this, but I just wanted to make sure you guys had this information. I feel like you needed to hear more about this at this time. October 9th, there is going to be a full moon that is going to be unfolding for you guys in your second house in Aries at 16 degrees. This will have to do with money. This will directly speak to money, where the subject now gets narrowed down to quality over quantity. This has a lot to do with that. Okay. You have to really rely on your intuition during this time because there can be a lot of new situations that are unfolding when it comes to money. A commitment to somebody else could be that you have some kind of commitment financially to somebody else that is now starting to kind of bring a new conversation onto the table, and you're like, okay, you know I'm gonna have to really focus in on this, hone in on this month. Has a lot to do with commitments, has a lot to do with relationships. And so during this time for you guys, it's going to be quality over quantity. That is what the message of this full moon in Aries is all about. And ultimately, it impacts your day to day. I'm going to make another separate video on the full moon in Aries. So be sure to look out for that video because we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into what this full moon is actually asking of you. Okay, so we're going to move on to October 10th. The second week is jam packed. Mercury moves into Libra. And for you guys, this is going to happen from your 7th into the 8th house. So more commitment and relationship dynamics are starting to evolve now. This will also be a time where I think you will be able to, bring all your mental focus and conversations into very special relationship dynamics where either a negotiation is, kind of evolving even more so Could be that you are sort of, many of you could be committing to somebody in a much deeper way, or there could be money involved here where negotiation is necessary. And so all of this is kind of followed by, the full moon. So the conversations are starting to evolve. The story is evolving for you guys where, you could be securing sort of more of the ideal situation of, partnership and deepening partnership, and what that really looks like and what trust and loyalty looks like here. So this is going to start to unfold starting on October 10th as Mercury moves on into your eighth house. And so, what else is happening during this week? October 11th through the 12th, the sun is going to be trining Saturn. So for you guys, the sun will still be transiting through Libra in your eighth house, which is illuminating everything I just talked about. Commitment, intimacy, the way in which you actually commit to somebody else, and your own personal psychology, your own psyche around all of that. These are the things that you're illuminating, but relationship dynamics are a part of all of this as well. So that trine is going to be happening to Saturn in your 12th house. So during this time, I think for many of you, every decision that you're making will align with your faith. It will align with what you feel spiritually is you. And so, great time to make a solid decision that benefits you even more so on the daily, but also benefits you in the sense where you feel like this is super aligned with your faith and who you are, what you believe in at this time. And so, decision making is here. Be sure that you are using this energy wisely, because it can be a time where you can be extremely centered and also disciplined. So this is a good energy to kind of, push things forward, get things done when it comes to agreements between you and somebody else. But because it's 18, there's an action around it that is necessary. So you can expect to, get things going during this time. October 13th and 14th, then Venus decides to join the party, and Venus is going to be trining Saturn as well. And this is going to be happening between your eighth and the 12th house as well. Again, this is a feel good kind of energy here. It's exciting, it's energizing between you and other people. Relationship on the horizon, and things are going to come beautifully together. That's here that I have behind this Venus, Saturn trine. Something becomes a lot more obvious here. A time in your past that led up to this very moment that becomes very obvious, like, yes, this is the kind of thing I was looking for. And finally, it is happening. That is the sense I'm getting behind all of this. Okay. So, yeah, that is the second week of October. I just wanted to mention real quick that the way I am designing these reports now is I'm going to be going week by week through the transits for your own personal horoscope. So if you are someone who likes to kind of, prepare ahead of time, then this report is for you. Pull out your journal, pull out your calendar so you can kind of follow along with all the transits that are happening and what the energies are good for. This is how I mostly use the astrology, because I find that the astrology isn't sort of overpowering our life. It's not like, oh my gosh, because this transit's happening, this is the only thing that I can, focus on during. But rather than using the astrology to know what the energies and the intentions are really good for, and then riding that wave in a relationship together. Okay. So that is what this report is about. And I want to real quick just introduce myself before I move on. My name is Aylin Sky. I'm an astrologer. I focus heavily on numerology and the degrees. I love taking a look at this part of the astrology. If you are here for the first time on my channel, welcome. I would for you to hang out with me. So subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. When you ring the bell, it notifies you whenever I'm here, whenever another episode comes out. So you are up to speed with the most important messages for you. Now that we talked about that, let's move on to the third in October. The third week in October, things start to get super interesting. Now we're starting to get into sort of the eclipse energy, and then also leading up to that Mars retrograde energy. And let's start out with the first transit. October 17th through the 18th, the sun is going to be in a trine with Mars. the sun is going to be during this time still in your house, finishing up the transit there with Libra, forming a trine to Mars. So eighth to the fourth house. That's where Mars is going to be for you for a while, okay, before it's going to move on. So what is this energy like? Well, you guys are going to be in a space, I believe, where you're going to sort of take big, bold actions during this time because relationships have sort of, sorted themselves out in a way where becoming a lot more clear. You know now sort of where things are leading next. That is what my prediction is here for you guys. And so what happens here is that the sun is trining Mars at 24. Now we're starting to open up to this new future where you're ready to take bold action. And this will have to do with money and then how it's going to impact your home life. Huge during this time. And also, you're kind of just in this place, I think, where you could feel very energized to take action because there's new ideas coming through. There's a lot of sort of new ideas of what home and home life actually could look like because Mars is going to be here in Gemini in the fourth house, starting to work things, and sort of problem solve. Okay. Anything around home life, there's a lot of problem solving that is happening here. So from then on, we are starting to get into getting ready for that eclipse energy, October 20th through the 26th. The sun is going to be in a conjunction with now. I am not going to be talking too much in depth about the eclipse because I'm going to be covering the eclipse more in depth video. So until the 23rd, actually, the sun is going to come into an exact conjunction with Venus at about 29 degrees. And I want to point this out here because this is a very interesting energy. This is going to happen in your eighth house. And there is going to be sort of a taste that you might get like for what your commitment and the future of that commitment is like. Things are getting sort of shown to you. There's sort of a moment where you realize, wow, a mastery here that starts to come into your periphery like, wow, this is what life is going to look like in this kind of a way if there was nothing else to problem solve here. Now, what happens though on the 3rd is Saturn goes direct. This is going to be happening in your 12th house. Venus and the Sun and Venus are going to be moving into Scorpio, moving on to Scorpio. This is going to happen into your 9th house. This is when we start to get ready for that eclipse energy. And so what happens is that a part of us starts to begin to notice that, okay, the story is evolving. And now I'm going to have to take the specific path to take side, or I have to draw the line. Okay. That's what you're moving into in order to make that happiness, the big energy of what commitment and this awesome like mastery that you're going to feel. This is what you need to do in order to make that. So it could be kind of an intense time, but for many of you, this eclipse is going to start in the 9th house. So it's quite literally starting a new journey with new people, with sort of consciousness expanding, and even philosophy sort of conversations that are starting to come into your life. But we will talk more a little bit about that. But the 9th house is basically a time where the big picture of your life is definitely, starting to change. Now, what is interesting during this time is that moving on to October 30th, Mars is now going to be starting its retrograde phase. And so something about the home life is coming to a moment where, all right, you saw these options. It is time for you to break away from certain comfort zones, things that you used to rely on, you used to sort of do before, because now you have a deeper sort of connection when it comes to how you want to move forward with money and commitments and loyalty to certain people. But then something about the home life, there's a lot of problem solving that needs to happen here. Things that you're comfortable with, things that you're not comfortable with, and you are now getting the chance to clear things up over the next 6 to 7 months. a chance to sort of free up what home actually is going to look like, what the ideal situation is going to look like. We're going to talk a little bit more about this Mars retrograde in another video as well. So look out for that. Okay. I have not gotten to creating those videos yet, but we are going to definitely discuss it. Now, if you want to learn more about the overall October energies and what the pulse of October is like, I have a separate video that is dedicated to this entire Libra season. In that video, I focus on what you should be focusing on and why you should be focusing on it in even more depth. So watch that video next. And thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you in my next episode. Bye.